This is video number 2 of our composition project. In today's video, I want to talk about two things. Number 1, the crescendo notation software, and number 2, how to add chords to a melody that we have already written. So let me show you the software first. This is Crescendo. There should be a little app at the bottom of your Chromebook that you just need to tap on for this to open up. When you open it, you're going to get a blank staff. There are two banks of notes and information, one on each side of the screen. So the one that we're going to use most is on this side of the screen over here. It'll be on your left side, and it's basically the notes, okay? Notes and rest. That's what we're going to be using most of the time to recreate our melody, okay? On the other side of the screen is kind of extra things like here's the dynamics and the clef, the key signature. Again, we're in 4/4 time and the key of C, but you do have to select all those things. And then down here at the bottom, it's going to become important in a minute because here's where we're going to put in all of our chords above our melody for our instrumentalists to play along with us. Okay? So let's start with just adding notes. How do you add notes to the staff? You just go over here and select the note that you want to and drop it in. I've already created the first measure of the melody that I made in the last video. I'm going to drop in a bar line. So that's measure 1 complete. Okay. The next note that I need to drop in here was the first note of the second measure, which was a G. So I'm going to drop that G in. Okay. Right here on the second line. Then we had an F. So I'm going to drop in the F. And then I had a half note. So I'm going to select the half note E. And that was as far as I got. Okay. I'm going to drop that in. Oh, my F disappeared. I need to add it back in, but you can add anything you need into. And if you need to erase something, you can go up to the top, and there's a little back arrow that will erase things, okay? So let me also drop in another bar line right here, because that's the end of the second measure. Okay, so that's as far as we got writing our melody in the last video, were these two measures, okay? Now, I need to add chords to this melody that I've written. We're in the key of C, and in the key of C, we are going to be using 3 basic chords. Now, in class, I showed you how to build a chord. I'm just going to remind you of what those chords are and the notes that go to make up those chords. Chords are made up of 3 different pitches, okay? They all work in thirds. If you're singing down at the piano, there's basically a root, a third, and a fifth. So if I'm in the key of C, the chord I'm probably going to use most is a C chord, okay? And the 3 notes that make up a C chord, the root is C, the next note is E, the third, and the fifth is G. I'm also going to be using a G chord, probably next, or next most often, in other words, dominantly. The 3 notes are G, B, and D of a G chord. And then I'm going to be using an F chord. And the notes that make up an F chord are F, A, and C. Okay? These are the 3 chords I'm going to use most often. All right? So as I'm trying to decide what chord belongs with what, where in my melody, what I want to do is look at the notes I've chosen in the melody. So let's do that. In the first measure, I've got C, D, E, G, C, D, E, G. So now I look at my chords. Which one of these chords has the majority of those notes, C, D, E, and G? Well, C chord has C. The G chord has a D. The C chord has an E. And the C chord has a G. So 3 out of those 4 notes all belong to a C chord. So I should probably put a C chord first. And most pieces of music start with the chord that's also in the key. So I'm going to go over here to my menu of chords, and I'm going to find a C chord. It just happens to be right there. I'm going to click on it and drag it over here and place it right on top of that first measure, because the first measure is going to be a C chord. Okay? All right. First chord done. Okay? Let's look at the second measure. The second measure has the notes E, or G, F, E, G, F, E. Okay, well, G has a G chord, and there's also a G in the C chord. F is the only chord that we have to use that has an F in it, and then an E. And there's an E here. So there's more notes, again, in the C chord than in any other chord. So if it's going to be the same chord again, I don't need to put it on the next measure. Let's write some more melody, and we'll see where we can go. Okay? I'm going to choose a quarter note and put it here on G, and then another quarter on A, a quarter on B, and then back to G. Okay, and again a bar line because I have 4 beats. We're in 4/4 time. That's a measure completed. Okay, now I've got a third measure. How do we figure out what chord goes with it? Look at the notes. G. Well, G is in the C chord. It's also in the G chord. A is in the F chord. B. B is only found in the G chord. And then G again. So the G chord has more notes than any other chord being used in this part of the melody. So I go over to my menu, and I have to go down a little bit to find that G chord. Okay, so I can just, actually I'm going to go up. I arrow up. If you look right here where it says fretboard, there's an arrow down and an arrow up. I'm going to arrow up until I get to the chord that I'm looking for. Okay. And there we go. Here are our G's, looks like. And there's a lot of choices for each chord. So you really do have to look. I want a regular G chord. I found it. It just says G. Nothing beside it. It only says G. Okay, I'm going to select it. And then I'm going to drop it right on top of this measure. Okay, so now I've got a C chord happening underneath the first 2 measures, or over if you want to say the first 2 measures, and a G chord for the third measure. Okay, continue doing the same process for all 8 measures. Your melody should probably start with a C chord and end with a C chord because we're in the key of C. Notation-wise, don't forget to also add a title and your name. All those things can be done through the text tool. And the text tool, I believe, is over on the right side. At the very top, it says text, and you can add text below the words, or you can add text anywhere using that. Also, when you first open a brand new blank staff, it will have a place to put the title and your name as the composer. Just click on those things, and a separate little box will come up where you can add in your name and your composition name. You do need to name your composition. Thank you.